What if you're preparing for the final goodbye, and the person suddenly opens his eyes, ready to start again?
Texas teenager sharing a deeply personal story tonight of dying, seeing Jesus, and then coming back to life.
What if mortality is knocking at your door, yet nature gives you another chance?
Saw these line of white angels, and in the middle of them, that Jesus.
While it seems impossible, it isn't just fiction. Today, you'll meet people who woke up after being declared deceased.
And they said that I was without a heartbeat for 20 minutes.
A football player, Zach Clements from Victory Life Academy in Brownwood, Texas, fell to the ground and suffered a cardiac arrest. His heart did not beat for 20 minutes. However, it was in seconds that Zach's pulse came back and he was flown to Cook Children's Hospital in Fort Worth. Zach's recovery was the greatest story of his life. He narrated that he saw a man with long hair and a thick beard, and he was certain that it was Jesus. He further stated that Jesus placed his hand gently on his shoulder and whispered to him that everything would be all right. The family thanked that they were given an opportunity to have Zach back in their lives.
Saw these line of white angels, and in the middle of them, that Jesus.
Shankar Gombi. In a small village of Mahalinga Puratang in India, a 27-year-old man, Shankar San Mukombe, had a road accident on Saturday, and at the time of report, he was under treatment in a private hospital in Belagavi. The doctors at the Belagavi hospital expressed concerns about his health and declared him gone. However, the senior officer who was about to perform a post-mortem examination saw that the body was moving. After examining the man's condition, it was soon realized that Shankar San was alive. The health officer proceeded to the hospital and saw to his dismay that Shankar San was alive, squeezing his hands and legs. Shankar San was transferred to a private hospital for further treatment. Dr. George Ritchie. On December 1st, 1943, Dr. George Ritchie was appointed to Camp Barkley, Texas. During his travels, however, Ritchie fell ill with a respiratory infection. Sadly, his health continued to deteriorate, and he passed away from double pneumonia. Just after the paperwork was signed declaring him expired, he found himself alive again. He went back to the hospital and eventually found his own body among the other soldiers' corpses. At that moment, the room was filled with light, and before him appeared the figure of Jesus Christ. Ritchie's entire life was revealed to him, and he was asked what he had done. Miracle Man.
This old man from Azamgarh in India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh was declared dead, and arrangements were made for his last rites.
In the village of Asungir, an elderly man named Ramkishore, who had passed away, shocked everyone when he came back to life just before his cremation in the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Preparations were made for Ramkishore's funeral. Therefore, just as the rituals were about to begin, Ramkishore started speaking and even asked for food at his own funeral.
And even asked for food from his funeral pyre, shocking everyone present for his last rites.
The villagers were stunned by his sudden revival, dubbing him the Miracle Man. Medical professionals explained that while rare, it's not entirely impossible for someone to exhibit signs that mimic demise. Angelo Hayes.
Angelo Hayes, he was riding a motorcycle, no helmet, and hit a wall.
It was a grim Thursday in 1937 when Angelo Hayes was involved in an accident. He was deceased and buried immediately at the scene. However, the story took an unexpected turn a few days later. Insurance investigators got suspicious about the timing of Hayes' life insurance policy and requested that his body be exhumed. To everyone's shock, the pathologist discovered that Hayes was in a coma, but had not rather passed away. He survived for several days.
Of course, the big question is, how did Angelo Hayes survive being buried alive for 3 days?
After receiving medical treatment and going through rehabilitation, Hayes made a full recovery. Inspired by his experience, Hayes designed a safety coffin equipped with food, water, and a way to signal for help. He even made a live television appearance from the coffin. Hayes' story became an inspiration to many. Charlotte Holmes.
I could smell the most beautiful flowers I've ever smelled. And then I heard music.
In 2019, an American, Charlotte Holmes, arrived at the cardiologist clinic for a usual checkup. On the visit, her blood pressure level elevated. Her doctor decided to admit her to the hospital, stating that it was crucial to lower her blood pressure to prevent a heart attack. During that time, she had an extraordinary experience. She felt as if she was above her body. She then described how she saw the most beautiful flowers and heard heavenly music as though she was in a different world. Moreover, she saw her deceased relatives who were young and healthy.
I seen my mom. I seen my dad. I seen my sister.
The last vision that Charlotte glimpsed was the edge of hell. After 11 minutes, the spirit returned to her body, and soon she made her recovery. Brazilian zombie. In São Paulo, Brazil, a woman visited the grave of a loved one. While she was placing flowers on the tomb, she heard unusual noises coming from a nearby grave. To her shock, she saw a man, half stiff and half below the ground. The woman called for help. It turned out that the man was an employee of the city hall who had been involved in a fight. His attackers hurt him and then left him. The woman who discovered him stated that it was an experience she would likely remember for the rest of her life. Nancy Perez. In the small town of La Entrada, Honduras, 16-year-old Nancy Perez collapsed at home one evening. She was declared deceased on arrival at the hospital. The family, sorely bereaved, buried her in her wedding dress. Rudy Gonzalez, Nancy's husband, visited her grave when he heard noises coming from inside the tomb. The family members then proceeded to open the tomb. To their surprise, the coffin was closed, and Nancy was inside. The family rushed her to the nearest hospital. The doctors confirmed that the young girl had indeed passed away. In shock, the family watched as Nancy was reburied back into the tomb. Mary Jo Rapini.
I seen them now, those patients who were telling me they were seeing angels. I would have embraced that.
Mary Jo Rapini practiced at a cancer center. She did not believe her patients' words about seeing angels or heaven before passing away. At the age of 17, Rapini faced a stroke because of drinking. She believed that she met the divine in the shape of God who told her to come back when she was ready. The incident left a deep impact on Rapini's life. However, Mary Jo Rapini was certain that she saw the presence that was identified as demonic. Dorothy Eady.
When I was 3 years old, I fell downstairs. My parents fetched the doctor, who examined me very carefully and said I was dead.
Dorothy Eady, who arrived at Abydos in Egypt, claimed to have been living there for more than 3,000 years. Her life changed following a mishap when she was 3. From that moment on, she spoke like an Egyptian priest, and this astonished many people. Dorothy Eady had a serene and everlasting look. In an interview at the Abydos Temple, she talked about her past lives, shared her strong love for ancient Egyptian gods, and even mentioned her ability to connect with spirits. She spent the rest of her life near Abydos and passed away in 1981. Some believe that she suffered from foreign accent syndrome and obsessive-compulsive disorder, but the truth about her story is still unknown. Matt Caswell.
All of a sudden, I got stabbed in my stomach. It was just like rusted razor blades.
In St. Louis, Missouri, a man, Matt Caswell, underwent a routine surgery at St. Charles County Hospital in July 2022. Caswell was expecting to drift off into unconsciousness under general anesthesia, but that never happened. The anesthesiologist had forgotten to turn on the knockout gas that was supposed to put him under peace. He felt the pain and heard everything that was said in the operating room for 13 minutes. His heart rate and blood pressure skyrocketed, but the medical professionals failed to notice. As a result of this experience, Caswell sued the anesthesiologist, the certified registered nurse anesthetist, and their employer. He experienced flashbacks and had trouble sleeping since the incident.
Get out of here. I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here.
Donna Penner.
She woke up just before surgeons began making an incision, but she couldn't stop the procedure from going forward.
In Winnipeg, Manitoba, a woman named Donna Penner underwent a routine surgery a few years ago. She expected to be fully under anesthesia, but that never happened. She remained conscious throughout the entire procedure.
I heard the surgeon speak up, and his words just sent a shock through my system when I heard him say, "Scalpel, please."
Anesthetist Dr. Eric Jacobson explained that situations like this were extremely rare and reassured that patients should not avoid anesthesia as long as they visit a reputable clinic with skilled professionals. However, Donna Penner's case was significant, serving as a lesson for both the patient and the doctors involved. Thanksgiving gift.
I went in there and I told him, "Could you say, 'Hi, Mom?' And he said, 'Hi, Mom.' And that brought me to tears.
A 21-year-old guy in San Francisco invited his friends to a Halloween party. While he and his girlfriend were walking home at night, they were confronted by an intruder. He immediately protected his girlfriend, but got unlucky. He was taken to the hospital, where the doctors expressed concern about his condition. He remained in the hospital and received care for an extended period. All hopes seemed to vanish, until on Thanksgiving Day, a miracle happened. When his mother came to visit him, he greeted her. She cried upon hearing her son's words.
I went in there and I told him, "Could you say, 'Hi, Mom?' And he said, 'Hi, Mom.' And that brought me to tears.
After a while, he started getting better, surprising everyone. They were overjoyed to see their beloved son smile back and to look forward to many more happy holidays. Navy vet.
Navy veteran wakes up one morning speaking only Swedish, no memory of his past.
In 2013, one morning in Palm Springs, a 61-year-old U.S. Navy veteran named Michael Boatwright woke up at the local emergency room. He could speak only Swedish, didn't recognize himself, and had no recollection of his past life.
Navy veteran wakes up one morning speaking only Swedish, no memory of his past.
The police and other authorities couldn't figure it out. They found him passed out at Motel 6 with Chinese IDs and a phone, along with some Chinese phone numbers.
The cell phone, it contained several phone numbers, all of which were phone numbers from the country of China.
Records showed that he worked in graphic design, taught English in Asia, and lived in Sweden. His doctors initially diagnosed transient global amnesia, while others thought that the problem was more psychological. The mystery of this man had just begun, leaving the world to wonder. Polish man. In 1988, a railway worker from Poland experienced a significant change in his life. One day, he had an unexpected accident and went into a coma. Doctors expressed concerns that his condition would deteriorate in the next 2 to 3 years. However, against all odds, he survived. Throughout 19 years, his devoted wife took care of him.
There were tears, there were prayers. From time to time, I cried at night, biting the pillow so that nobody could hear.
After 19 years, he started making progress. When he finally woke up from the coma, the doctors told him that all 4 of his kids were grown up and married. Now he has 11 grandkids, which is pretty amazing considering the circumstances. Terry Wallace. In 1984, a young man who lived in Arkansas had the joy of his life when his wife gave birth to a baby girl. Things went wrong only 6 weeks after the baby's birth. He and his friend had a car accident. His friend passed away and he went into a coma. Years went by and he did not regain consciousness. And then a miracle happened on June 12, 2003. He opened his eyes after 19 years. Despite some confusion, still thinking it was 1984, the family was glad to have him back, and they helped him to recover. He further lived for 19 years, and all these years, he was cherished by the family. 10-year coma. In 2023, a professional prankster planned to pull a prank on his buddy who had a problem with alcohol. He set up a realistic room that looked just like a hospital room, with medical equipment and a nurse. One night, after his friend got drunk, he was gently lifted and placed on the bed to recover. When his friend woke up, he was told he had been in a coma for 10 years since 2013.
This accident took place back in 2013, 2023.
The man dressed as a doctor explained that when the accident happened, his son was 2 years old, and now the child was 12.
My son was 2 years old when you came in here, and he's 12 now.
His friend was completely clueless, and everyone was shocked when he couldn't recognize anyone around him. Velma Thomas. In Virginia, USA, a woman named Velma Thomas was revived after she was declared deceased for over 17 hours. In 2008, she had a heart attack at home and was taken to the hospital. The condition did not get better, and she passed away. However, something miraculous happened. After 10 minutes, her heart started beating again, much to the surprise of the medical team. Her shocked son sprinted to get to his mother. The accident was described as a miracle by the Dr. Kevin Eggleston. This was an extremely rare occurrence that is known as Lazarus syndrome, or the spontaneous return to a normal heartbeat. De Duarte. 50-year-old Gladys Rodriguez. Duarte, an ovarian cancer patient, was brought to the San Fernando Clinic in the city of Coronel Oviedo on Saturday morning when she complained of a rise in her blood pressure. Dr. Heriberto Vera stated that she passed away at 11:20 a.m. The doctor proceeded to break the bad news to her husband, Maximino Duarte Ferreira, and her daughter, Sandra Duarte, and told them that she passed away due to cervical cancer. Unfortunately, when the family went to the hospital, they transferred Rodriguez Duarte's corpse to Duarte and Sons funeral parlor. The workers moved the body bag. They were shocked when Rodriguez Duarte was actually alive and kicking in the body bag. She was taken to one of Paraguay's Social Welfare Institute medical centers for further treatment. Timesha Beauchamp. A 20-year-old girl, Timesha Beauchamp, passed away from a heart attack in Southfield, Michigan on a Sunday morning. When the staff of the funeral arrived, they were shocked that the lady was actually alive. It left the Southfield Fire Department as well as the authorities bamboozled and incapable of explaining what happened. Southfield Fire Chief Johnny Menifee said that it was probably Lazarus syndrome. Later, she was admitted to a nearby hospital to be treated on a respirator. The family lawyer, Jeffrey Feger, charged the paramedics and also alleged discrimination. The fire chief refuted these allegations while insisting that his employees were highly professional and committed to the welfare of the community. Grandmother. A 61-year-old Russian woman named Lyudmila Steblitskaya was resurrected 2 times. The first incident was in November 2022 when she was admitted to the Tomsk Regional Clinical Hospital for weakness. Her daughter received the call about her passing away. She started to prepare for a funeral, but was stunned when, on arriving at the hospital, she saw her mother breathing in her bed. The second event took place in October 2023. This time, doctors brought her back to life after several hours. She stayed awake for 3 consecutive days in a cold morgue. The remarkable case had posed the wrenching question of survival to Lyudmila's family. Peter Keegan.
A 32-year-old man from Kericho is recovering in hospital after morgue attendants cut him open to inject him with preservative after assuming that he was dead.
A 32-year-old man, Peter Keegan from Curicó, Chile, came back to life after he was nearly buried and embalmed in the mortuary. The incident happened on Tuesday morning when Keegan fainted at his home and was taken to Cap Kate District Hospital. The family evacuated his body to the morgue immediately. The mortuary attendants were shocked when they prepared the body for embalming, and Keegan was still alive. Dr. Gilbert Cherwayot stated that the family was responsible as they hurried to transfer him to the morgue. Fortunately, Keegan was sent to the hospital for further recovery. Nicholas Rossi. An American fugitive, Nicholas Rossi was accused of forging his own demise to escape from the charge in Utah. He was arrested in December 2021 from a hospital in Glasgow, Scotland. He identified himself as an Irish orphan, Arthur Knight, and fought his extradition to the U.S. for over 1 year. Despite Rossi's attempt to deceive the court, a judge in Edinburgh Sheriff Court held that he should be extradited to the US. The judge described Rossi as dishonest and deceitful. The judge further observed that the documents presented by Rossi were unreliable. He was charged with several cases in different states. It was the time that now he had to face the consequences of his actions. Jim Woodford. A prominent businessman, Jim Woodford did not believe in God. Jim was consumed in materialism, so he distanced himself from his family. At the age of 61, he was diagnosed with a crippling disease, Guillain-Barré syndrome, a disease that has no known cure. Her wife began to pray for God to change his heart. Little did she know that it would be answered in a miraculous manner. Jim overdosed on his medication in April 2014. He was taken to the hospital and placed on a ventilator. Unconsciously, he visioned heaven and met Jesus Christ. When he awoke, he was transformed, and even the crippling pain was gone. Fortunately, Jim discovered deep love for Jesus. Janelle Wofford. It was just another workday for Janelle Wofford when she suddenly felt pain in her chest. Janelle called for an ambulance, and the EMTs arrived and asked her about her symptoms. As she described the pain, a white sheet seemed to come down over her eyes, and she found herself in a beautiful, bright place. She felt an overwhelming sense of joy, comfort, and peace. Then she heard her name being called. In an instant, she was back with the EMTs, who explained that she had suffered a heart attack and had no pulse for 2 to 2.5 minutes. Janelle believed that God had given her this experience to show her that heaven is real. Józef Guzzi. In a small town of Katowice in Poland, 76-year-old Józef Guzzi fainted. An ambulance was called, and the doctor stated that he had a heart attack and his heart was not beating anymore. The authorities arrived to take Józef's body to the funeral. His wife Ludmila asked to take off his watch. The man touched Józef's neck and felt a pulse. Surprisingly, Józef was still breathing. The man immediately called an ambulance, and the same doctor came back telling that Józef had been brought back to life. He was released from the hospital after a few days. Dr. Mary Helen Hensley. On August 12, 2021, an Irish-based metaphysical healer, Dr. Mary Helen Hensley, had a car crash. She had an experience that changed her perception towards life. She woke up in the realm of light and love, where she discovered the meaning of her life and the nature of life after the demise. The transformation changed her and made her realize the process of healing. Since her miraculous recovery, Dr. Hensley's arranged healing sessions that were in high demand in Ireland and most of Europe. She helped many people in healing and shared her knowledge to find a deeper connection to mysteries of life. Screaming Man. In Johannesburg, South Africa, an incredible event happened in the morgue. A 60-year-old man had an asthmatic attack. He collapsed and passed away. Instead of seeking help from emergency services, his family allowed the morgue firm to take the body. Fortunately, he was alive and survived for a day. His noise was heard by mortuary workers. He was taken to the hospital for examination. It was a miracle that he made it in the morgue for 24 hours. Nebraska Funeral. A Nebraska funeral home discovered that a 74-year-old hospice patient, believed to have passed away 2 hours earlier at her nursing home, was actually still alive. Authorities in Lincoln, Nebraska were stunned by the mix-up. The woman had been transported from the nursing home where she was thought to have passed, but a funeral home employee noticed her breathing and called 911. The staff performed CPR, and she was rushed to the hospital, where her family was informed she was still alive. The sheriff's office is investigating the incident, though no charges are pending. Officials are reviewing whether current protocols were followed or if new ones are needed. This mistake has raised concerns about the procedures for declaring someone's passing. Miracle Woman. It all began with a call to the Southfield Fire Department early Sunday morning. At 7:34 a.m., paramedics arrived at a home in Southfield to assist an unresponsive 20-year-old woman who wasn't breathing. Despite efforts to revive her, first responders determined after about 30 minutes that she had passed away. Following standard procedures, the Oakland County Medical Examiner's Office reviewed the medical data and also concluded that the woman had expired. The family was then notified to make funeral arrangements. However, hours later, staff at the James H. Cole Funeral Home in Detroit discovered that the woman was still breathing. This unexpected turn of events has left many questions unanswered. Naivasha Man. A man in Naivasha, Kenya, had a startling experience when he was mistakenly presumed to have passed away and taken to the morgue. The 24-year-old was initially rushed to Naivasha District Hospital in critical condition after an apparent suicide attempt following an argument with his father. Doctors administered drugs typically given to patients who have ingested poisonous substances. After 20 hours, morgue attendants were shocked when the man, who had been presumed deceased, suddenly woke up and called for help. The incident caused panic, with some attendants fleeing, while others bravely moved him back to the ward. Now recovering in the hospital, his condition is no longer critical, and an investigation has been launched into the mix-up. Michael Pruitt. A 20-year-old worker, Michael was on a ladder when he accidentally pulled it back into a live power line. He got an electric shock and he fainted. When the paramedics arrived, they realized that Michael was pulseless for approximately 20 minutes. After taking him to the hospital, doctors prescribed a shock through a device known as a defibrillator to make him breathe again. He gained strength during the process of his recovery. Remarkably, he had 2 little black marks on the toe. The man with bandaged head kept the shoes he wore that he told people of how he came back to life. Michael later got a tattoo to signify the journey and called it a new purpose. Valdelucio Goncalves. In Salvador, Brazil, a 54-year-old man, Valdelucio Goncalves, was declared deceased by doctors, yet he was alive. He was diagnosed with respiratory and multiple organ dysfunction. His family was informed that he had passed away, so they started to arrange the funeral. Valdelucio's brother Walterio was allowed in the morgue to prepare the body for burial purposes. As he got closer to the body bag, it began to jiggle. To his surprise, his brother was breathing. Later, Valdelucio wrote a letter saying that he owed his life to Blessed Irma Dulce, a well-known Franciscan sister in Brazil. He said that he saw he would be deceased, but he had faith that he would be healed. Miguel Angel Gomar de Luna. Another event took place in Mexico when a 74-year-old man, Miguel Angel Gomar de Luna, was declared lost. His family was actively looking for him for months, and one day they received a call from the police saying that they found a man's body who resembled him. Later, the body was buried. However, after a month, one of the family members got a call from the police informing them that Miguel was in fact alive. The reunion was emotional and strange, with Miguel slurring his words saying, "They thought I was dead, but I just walk and walk." The bizarre twist left them baffled, but they were relieved to have him back. It's time for today's open discussion. A militant atheist, Brian Melvin, claimed to transform after being passed away due to cholera. Suddenly, he floated above his own body and felt himself drifting towards an ethereal light to which he could hear the sound of beautiful, profound music. Melvin then suddenly met Jesus Christ, who informed him that he did not have the right to go to heaven, but instead, he was sent to hell. Melvin saw Adolf Hitler just like the victims in the netherworld. This experience transformed Melvin and made him a born-again Christian.